Good evening. We queer up breaking news. Gay Fort Lauderdale police chief dismissed for discrimination. Last year, the world was on fire with the hashtag Black Lives Matter movement and awareness of racial equity. Just 6 months after gay officer Larry Serrato was made chief of the Fort Lauderdale Police Department, he was fired for discrimination. What poor, maligned, and downtrodden minority did he discriminate against? Apparently, white people. Serrato made it an open point to help bring diversity to the police force, at times choosing qualified minority candidates for jobs over their white counterparts. Over the 15 hires he made during his employment, 6 of them were minorities. While he has said he spoke about the force being, quote, too white, end quote, and not representing the population of the area, he denies asking which of 2 candidates were, quote unquote, blacker for hiring. Breaking news.
I'm blown away by this story. I mean, seriously. And so supposedly there's a big, there's a wall of all the people who work at certain departments, right? We've all been to like big businesses where that is, right? So there's this whole big wall and there's a bunch of photos and most of the people on these photos are white. Right. So the gentleman goes and goes, this wall is way too white. I'm going to change that. And many people heard him say that. It's one of the various comments that racially he can't be saying. Then I find out that he has parents that are biracial and he's gay. Like, I'm so confused by this, completely.
I am too. It threw me off completely, the story, and especially at the end when he said, what at the end says who's blacker. I mean, that, as much as I think that there should be representation in the police force and community service, but just that kind of comment is a little too is unacceptable.
I'm curious, does it surprise you in the connection that we make in this story, in this breaking news of his termination over the weekend, that it's gay and discrimination and race, they're all intersecting together? Does that surprise you?
Not in the land of DeSantis. I mean, he holds sway over the whole state. I mean, we have a little bubble down here, but you can still feel that here, and that's an example of it. That's an example of DeSantis.
I mean, there's so much nuance to this story. There's so many layers. And I mean, he denies having asking which of the candidates were blacker, right? That's the last part of that story. But there's, what it's doing, among many things, is sparking a really important conversation about the problems with policing and the problems, the disproportionate way that it's felt among Black and brown communities, and especially within lower income communities. And the kinds of, what was it, 5 out of, or 6 out of 15. I mean, if the police force needs to look like the community that it is policing.
Yeah, for sure.
And this is just not, I mean, those numbers aren't even close to,
sure.
I mean, so.
One of the things, I've told this story 100 times, one of the things that I learned when I moved to do this gig, create news here in South Florida, is that Broward County is a majority county. And I had never heard that phrase ever before. And the explanation of 1.5 million, 100,000 residents, whatever the current number is, the majority of the residents in Broward County are women, gay, Black, Latino, underrepresented minorities. The majority of the county does not look like me. No. And what's confusing on this story is his desire in a majority county is to propel minority representation in the police department. I think it's too early for us to come to any kind of conclusion here of what is really going on, but it just doesn't sit right. It's a little disturbing because after all, this is not, it's not Montgomery, Alabama or Lincoln, Nebraska. Right. This is a different type of community.
Yep. Well, and a gentleman says that he's going to fight it all the way. He's already gotten representation, and he's not just going to stay, quiet about it. One
other thing, does it surprise you that the discrimination that we're talking about here is not against gay, it's against white?
That's right.
It feels weird because we're not used to that.
It's like,
but you do wonder if gay does come into play also in a like an under the surface way. The fact that he's gay, maybe
here,
that.
Do you think? The reason that surprises me is the mayor of Fort Lauderdale is gay.
Right.
So we're living in one of the densest gay communities in America, if not the world. We joke here at Queer News Tonight that this is the gayest place on planet Earth. So it doesn't feel like it's discrimination against a gay black man, but
Yeah.
it's very confusing.
Layered.
Very.
It's very layered, yes. All right, we're going to watch this story closely, we assure you. Welcome to Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening news. It's time to queer up the news. It's 8 p.m. Monday, March 7th, 2022, and we are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
Hello, and thank you for joining Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens, you will see it. Queer News Tonight is supported by viewers like you. We are part of the partnership between Happening Out Television Network and Hotspots Magazine. Hotspots is celebrating 36 years of the LGBTQ plus experience. We bring you the best of LGBTQ plus news, entertainment, and support of our community.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson. Let's welcome anchor FayWhat. She's a radio and television, did I say that right? What?
Yes, you did.
I did.
Sorry, I'm posing.
Absolutely. Television personality that has a popular blog and YouTube channel aiming to unite the L and the G together.
What's my best side?
She, turn around, we'll show you.
Oh!
I didn't mean it that way. That might have been a little inappropriate.
You think?
Kitty Meow was in the audience tonight, and even she is shocked. She's a hostess and MC for many South Florida events, an animal advocate, and owner of Fays for her family. Also, make sure to catch the FayWhat show, the first LGBTQ morning show Mondays at 9 a.m. Eastern online or on your smart television. Good evening, Faye.
Good evening, everyone. I want to give a big shout out to Bona Italian Restaurant in Wilton Manors. Today, it's all about Give Back Mondays, and the 10% of the proceeds tonight is going to a organization very true to my heart, Paw Patrol, Sanctuary and Rescue for Dogs in South Florida. So thank you to Glenn and all the crew over there over at Bona.
Let's have dinner there tonight.
Let's have dinner
After
there.
the show.
Yes, let's do it. Next up, let's welcome anchor Dino Mosquera. He joined the Miami Gay and Lesbian Film Festival in the late 90s and now serves on the Outshine Film Festival's board of directors. He is now the screening committee chairman, selecting films for one of America's most important LGBTQ plus film festivals. Welcome, Dino.
Thank you, chica.
¿Cómo estás, mi amor? ¿Todo bien?
Todo bien.
Sí, sabe que hay 3 latinos y solamente 2 blancos. Ellos no saben qué caray estamos diciendo. Se podemos aprender todo lo que tú quieras.
Lo que quieras.
¿Quieres empezar ahora?
Dale.
Dile algo negativo, dile.
Dale.
Wrong. Just wrong.
Entiendo un poco, creo que entiendo un poco.
No, I think he knows more than you. That's not.
It's all a pleasure to have y'all on the last night of Queer News Tonight that
Van a botar de aquí.
So just to remind you that the Outshine Film Festival is coming up April 22nd to May 1st. Now let's welcome anchor Dr. Julio Capo Jr. He is a history professor and the deputy director of the Wolfsonian Public Humanities Lab at the Florida International University. He specializes in the history of race relations and immigration in the United States, as well as the LGBTQ plus studies. He's an author of the book Welcome to Fairyland, Queer Miami Before 1940, and curated a new exhibition called Messages from a Pandemic, AIDS Graphic Communication. Good evening, Julio.
Hey, thanks for having me. Let's welcome anchor Gregg Shapiro, an inductee into the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame. Gregg is the author of 8 books, including his latest, Fear of Muses, an entertainment journalist whose celebrity interviews and music reviews run in a variety of regional LGBTQ+ and mainstream publications and websites. His movie review column called Screensaver can be found in South Florida Gay News, San Francisco's Bay Area Reporter, RottenTomatoes.com, and much, much more. Hey, Gregg.
Happy National Flapjack Day.
Oh, all right.
We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight,
Thank
And this evening we begin with the queer
Only
headlines.
white people call it flapjacks.
Yeah, I was like, what is
Like,
that?
what are flapjacks? Are those titties? I was like, are those breasts? Because that's National Flapjack Day. I'm all about it. Woohoo! But it's not.
The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast. And here are the bullet points of the Queer News for today, Monday, March 7th.
Ever had one of those days? It's happening for me. Well, let's begin by queering up entertainment. Queer Kate McKinnon slams Florida's unconscionable Don't Say Gay bill on SNL's Weekend Update. Saturday Night Live, I watched this live, it was interesting. Saturday Night Live star Kate McKinnon took aim at Florida's Don't Say Gay bill on this week's show during the Weekend Update segment. At first, she raves about how excited she is about the bill, citing how she was frequently called gay during school in the 1990s. As Colin Jost then has to explain that it actually stops anyone from discussing LGBTQ plus topics in class, McKinnon seems incredulous, asking, so when one kid can say, quote, I live with my parents, but another one has to say, I live in a house with two adult men who bought me when I was young, end quote.
Listen, stuff like this is making me watch SNL again.
Yeah?
Am I the only one? Because I took a hiatus for some time.
Me
And
too.
now it's
It's
just like
been
they're
a
coming back
great
with a vengeance.
season.
And
Great
Kay McKinnon is such a great representation
Love
of our
her.
community, you know? And
Love.
I love how they did it like in total SNL way, where it started off kind of like funny, but then it, it's like, this is how ludicrous this is.
Yeah.
This is how ridiculous this is, and it's the reality that we're living.
And she's a national treasure. She's been great ever since Big Gay Sketch Show. I mean, she was brilliant there. She's a necessary addition to the show. And I do love the way that she sort of took the negative use of the word gay, coming in and thinking that that's what it was, because that's what she was talking about, and then flipping it around and then completely going for DeSantis's jugular, which was beautiful.
Going to Faye's point, like one of the things I love most about SNL when it's at its strongest is that it is actually at its strongest when we need it the most. Like
Yes.
we need humor often to go through really difficult times when we're going through
Yes,
difficult
after
times.
9/11, their show was incredible.
That's right.
When we were coming back out of quarantine, their show was incredible.
Yeah.
You're absolutely
Yeah.
right.
They did a segment, her as Laura Ingraham from
Yes,
Fox News.
yes,
Tucker
and
Carlson.
Tucker
Oh,
Carlson,
your
your
friend, your
boyfriend.
buddy.
That was
And your
brutal.
boyfriend.
My
It
best
was-
friend Tucker Carlson.
It was amazing.
He
Best
was
friend.
crying. We talked later. He
bet.
called me about
I bet.
1:15. He was crying.
It was amazing.
It was so
He's
so
capable
good.
of crying?
He did,
know.
well,
Cries?
Yeah,
Wow.
he had his tear ducts removed, but he cries someplace else. You'll think about that joke later and go, ugh. It's interesting to me. One of the things, to the point, I hadn't thought about it this way. They did something really brilliant in this skit. Because not only does she contrast, well, I got called gay so many times, so this is really great that it's being banned to be able to call me gay. And then when she realizes, wait, you can't say this and you can't say this, then she incorporates every one of those words.
That's right.
Of adding gay, adding lesbian, adding all of the words that you can't say if this bill passes. And Joe's just sitting there going, I'm confused. Wait, you've just said another thing that you can't
You couldn't
say.
Yep.
Satire is our most powerful.
Totally.
political-
It
It's
was-
just a silver bullet.
That's right.
It was very effective.
Yeah.
Now let's queer up business. LGBTQ students protest at Magic Kingdoms as Disney refuses to speak out against Don't Say Gay. Watch this story.
Ho ho! Don't say gay has got to go. Hey hey! Ho ho! Don't say gay has got to go. Hey hey! Ho ho! Don't say gay has got to go. Hey hey! Ho ho!
This weekend, students from across the state of Florida staged a protest at Walt Disney World, hoping the largest employer and single source of tax revenue for the state of Florida will speak out against HB 1557, the Parental Rights in Education Act, or as opponents call it, Don't Say Gay bill. Former Disney CEO Bob Iger has spoken out against the bill, but the current person in charge, Bob Chapek refuses to get involved in political points of view, even though the company donates to many Republican supporters of the bill.
Oh my God. Disney says it supports gay rights with inspiring content despite donating to Don't Say Gay. Isn't that like the biggest oxymoron like ever?
Yeah, Disney has done us wrong, and one of the big spring movies from Disney is this Better Nate Than Ever. So of course they're gonna take our money because we're gonna go see a gay-themed movie, but they are having difficulty standing up for us, which is a problem.
I mean, like, even the kind of term Disney gay is like a thing, like that is people know this as like a concept. Yeah. We'll stop giving you our money. Stop. Like, I mean, that is like, this is what they're doing is not okay. And honestly, they've done different versions of this for quite some time. I think we need to, put our money where our mouth is, right? That is.
Think about all that merchandising, all that we've been talking about during Pride Month at Disney, all that money that they make off us.
Yeah.
And then they can't even come up and just say a statement like, I support, or we'll look into it. Tell us something, lie to me, Sólame un poco.
Weren't they giving money to this Senator Baxley that we were talking about the other day? So, I mean, that speaks volume.
I mean, about who what kind of inclusivity do they really represent if they're giving money behind closed doors? Absolutely not.
I think you get it right when you say it's an oxymoron what is going on, because morons are making this policy statement flatly. It's moronic what you're doing. Disney is way bigger than this. They can't be touched by these people. You're not only Florida's biggest employer, but you're the world's largest LGBTQ employer. It is nothing for you to come out and say, we don't support this ridiculousness. And there's no political consequence of you doing that. So you're representing the absolute worst of everything that people think of gigantic corporate America. Shame on you for doing that.
Shame on you.
Second, we have to congratulate Scott Galvin, the executive director of Save Our Schools.
Safe Schools.
Safe Schools, thank you. He organized the event, bussed many students up from South Florida just to stand at that gate of that entrance of the park to go, this is wrong and this is wrong, and it attracted national and international attention to doing it. Students' voices matter, and we remind everybody that student voices matter, and you should be able to talk in a free speech environment in your classroom and at the gate of Walt Disney World. And the last thing, at this hour, the voting is going on at the Florida Capitol in the Senate they're going through the amendments, and they're on the verge of voting. We wish we could tell you what the outcome is, but at this moment of this hour, we cannot. However, we fully expect to come back on the air tomorrow and report that Don't Say Gay has been passed.
Ugh. Sorry, I said that out loud. Ow. Next, we queer up sports. LGBTQ plus pro basketball Brittney Griner becomes pawn in Putin's Russian meltdown with Moscow arrest. Russia is being called out for the arrest of lesbian WNBA star Brittney Griner. Griner is accused of drug smuggling after hashish oil cartridges were discovered in her luggage. She faces up to 10 years in Russian prison. Griner traveled to Russia to play for UMMC Yekaterinburg, which she has been since 2016. It's unclear if she was arrested entering or leaving the country. Did you guys hear about the story? This is crazy. So she had these cartridges in her luggage as in a check-in bag, and they went through her bag and took it out, and then they're using this as a reason to want to keep her jailed for 10 years.
And the thing is that she plays there in the off season from the WNBA, right? She has been playing there for a while. So they treat her very respectfully in the league until now. Because she has been traveling there for many months, but now this happens.
But after 6 years, wouldn't she know better than to have that in her luggage? After going there 6 years on and off, she should know what those laws are. That just don't have it in the luggage.
The current climate that we're in.
Well, there it is, and I want to put that out on the table. She might have been doing this for years, and it's never been an issue.
But now
the question is really, do we think it's a gay issue first? But more importantly, do we think that this is an American and NATO and Western European issue for Russia? For them to be able to do something like this and say, we could repeat this 1,000-fold if you want us to do this. This is just one example. Do you think that Russia's just flexing their muscle because they can?
Well, they use the word pawn. She is being used as a pawn, and that's his game. He loves doing that kind of stuff.
That's sending a message.
Right.
He's sending a message.
So do you think that she's going to be stuck there? Do you think that that we're not going to be able, like, we can't send in like James Bond to get her out or anything like that? It doesn't work that way, right?
If you can't, we're getting ready to talk about it, but if you can't log on to the internet or you can't use your Visa card, I think they're going to use this and make this an event where it may be quite a while.
It's an important case to follow.
Yes,
That's
very
another.
closely.
She has a wife here that is waiting for her.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And now we queer up the world. Russia's new Iron Curtain goes up as all free speech ends for LGBTQ. For everyone. Zuckerberg got zucked. Facebook has been criticized for blocking controversial political figures. The social media platform got banned by Russia before they could take action against Putin. Social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter can be vital for people living in totalitarian governments so that they can communicate with the outside world. Putin, angry about Russian people speaking out against his actions in Ukraine, has banned the social media platforms as part of his restrictions on free press.
So how does that work? So if someone has their internet and they go to Facebook, then there's basically nothing
There's
there.
no Facebook.
Right.
Well, there is no Facebook, and they have Telegram. So Telegram has become very successful, very popular. It's unclear if because Facebook and Facebook also owning Instagram and WhatsApp.
WhatsApp, yeah.
If WhatsApp is out of the picture, which is massive, if that is the case. But people are turning into Telegram. So.
TikTok has made the decision before Russia could do it to withdraw out of Russia, and many observers, political observers, say that will have more dramatic effect on Russians because of the withdrawal of TikTok because it's so popular in Russia.
I mean, one of the things it tells us, which we've known for a long time, is the power of social media platforms to get people together, to mobilize, to fight against the totalitarian regimes, against totalitarianism. But I also feel like the resolve is always there. That is, that people will find ways to do this. I want to find a kind of hope, like a strain of hope in all this, that people are going to find ways to continue to do that and fight against totalitarianism, because the people of Russia are also really strong, right? That is like they can fight against authoritarianism in a lot of different ways.
I'm curious, are you all surprised by what we're seeing in the world? That there seems to be such overwhelming opposition to what they're watching in the world?
Yeah.
It surprises me what I read too, also that apparently Ukraine also wanted that to happen, that Facebook will, because there is a lot of propaganda being spread out, right, by the Russian government to the Russian people, especially people. Well, the news are all, controlled by the state.
Right.
So the TV is all controlled by the state. So now through Facebook, they were trying to spread that false, message that this was a military operation.
Right.
It wasn't
the
a war
bots.
in Ukraine.
Right.
So apparently Ukraine also wanted that to happen, but to what degree? Like you said, people have to find out the truth.
Right.
And the channels are becoming less and less. So unless you are young and you have knowledge of all these different media.
Well, help audience understand, what would you be feeling if you were LGBT in Russia right now? You're not only cut off in terms of the isolation that he's been working on for the last 4 or 5 years, but now you're completely cut off from the entire world. So you're gay in Moscow or St. Petersburg, which is principally where the two gigantic gay communities are, and you have no contact, not only in Russia, but in the world. How would you react to that?
It sounds awful. Sounds awful to say, and this goes against everything that I stand for, but I would probably go back in the closet.
Did you guys watch Welcome to Chechnya, the documentary that came out
David
of Russia
Franz
a few years ago?
Yeah.
And we showed it at the film festival. I mean, that tells you, and this is before this situation where they were very isolated already in Chechnya and persecuted by the police. And
Violent,
kidnapped. And so add to that, the lack of communication now to the outside world. So imagine there must be terror.
And that was before a war was happening.
Right.
So it makes it even more difficult.
Exactly.
They were helping people escape. But now with this war going on, how can you get people in there to help them get
Another
out?
thing that I want to ask you about is, terrible, but more and more people are saying the nuclear options are exploratory in conversation. The no-fly is in concern that we can enforce a no-fly zone in Ukraine, even with Ukraine's pleadings, because it escalates the possibility of expanding the war outside of Ukraine and pulling us into a conflict. If we shoot a Russian plane down, what will Russia's response be? And everyone is beginning to cede in just matter of fact, nuclear option. Yeah.
Well,
What do you think about the fear of, we're talking about a missile crisis in Cuba in 1962 in spades.
You know, before, I mean, because our option, I mean, what is currently being under discussion is a potential boycott or blocking the purchase of oil from Russia, right? And natural gas, their biggest exports, right? The U.S. only buys 3% of their oil from Russia. The European Union purchases 39% of the natural gas from Russia. So this is important, you know, because that's why you see the hesitation. You see, we could do without 3%. I mean, yes, our gas prices will go up. The prices of gas. It has, and it's happening. But we have to be consistent here. So if we want to inflict pain, this is what's going to happen. We're going to have to decide, you know, do we pay more? But this is our commitment to help, you know, put pressure on Russia to stop this.
Are we willing to do that? Are we willing to pay more?
But this is what's happening right now. So Russia is going to Venezuela. As you guys know, I'm Venezuelan. I'm on top of what's going on now. Venezuela, well, the regime of Maduro is being supported by Russia militarily for many months, not just now. And they're going there, but now the U.S. is actually in conversations with the Maduro regime, even though we embargo the oil coming from Venezuela just because as an alternative to this potential boycott of the Russian oil. So we have to be consistent here. So the U.S.
I want to return to my question. Fear over the nuclear conversation.
Yes,
he's a
of course.
madman.
Listen, understand that Putin is Kanye'd right now.
Yeah.
He's a mess. He is not mentally stable. He doesn't give an F about us at all. So why not press that button and start sending them our way as well?
Yeah, he's a madman.
And you know, he took over the not only Chernobyl, but the biggest nuclear plant in Ukraine. And now every decision that is made out of that plant has to come out of Russia. He can do whatever he wants. And they're interviewing even the past prime minister from Ukraine, and they're saying he's very capable of, going this route.
We're spending a lot of time on this, but obviously it's the #1 story in the world. What's your reaction that many people have been talking in the last 72 hours? What would be going on in the world if Donald Trump was still president?
Oh, God. Well, Ukraine will already be
taken over.
He would have given it.
Ukraine would be already Russia too. Yeah.
There would have been any fight. I mean, I guess that would have been already given to him.
Well, before we move on, let's make 2 good positive things that are going on.
Please tell me 2 positive things.
Over the weekend, Anonymous came to Ukraine's aid. Everybody knows Anonymous. They have quite a bit of technical expertise in ways that you don't want to get on Anonymous's bad side because they'll do interesting things. Twice over the weekend, they broke into Russian television. And while you're watching Russian television, Putin is thinking, well, I've blocked everything in social media, and came on to Russian television and showed pictures of what was going on in Ukraine to the entire country. So you couldn't deny it because Anonymous comes in with a mask and says, here's what's happening in Ukraine, and showed video pictures.
Brilliant.
Amazing.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Amazing.
Putin, you better hold on. Second thing that I think is amazing is over the weekend, reports started coming out of all of maybe as many 5,000 to 10,000 Russian soldiers have been killed. You can't hide that. You can't, no matter what. The truth always eventually comes out.
Right. I agree.
Authoritarianism doesn't ultimately succeed because you can't hide the truth forever. You can't be North Korea. It's virtually the only place in the world, Myanmar. But those are not world economies like Russia. But Russia's a second world economy. You can't hide the truth forever. What's really, really interesting to me is the Ukrainians are fighting. mothers and women are standing in front of trucks and jeeps and tanks and stopping them on the streets.
Powerful.
And powerful. And these Russian soldiers were sold a bill of goods of we've got to free them because they're being wiped out by fascists. And the people are pouring into the streets going, the fascist is sitting in the Kremlin.
Right.
And
Giving
they
you orders.
capture these soldiers, and what is it that they're doing? The first thing they do, I posted this today, the first thing they do is hand many of them a phone and say, call your mother.
Call your mom, of course.
That's brilliant.
Hashtag Moscow Moms is trending because of this, because they're calling their mothers to tell them what's really going on in the Ukraine. And they're planting little seeds in Moscow and St. Petersburg to say, wait, here's the real truth.
The truth.
It's brilliant. I think that's great.
It's genius.
It's genius, yeah.
Ukraine, we tell you, the LGBTQ America is certainly with you, and we just can't believe what we're watching. We just can't believe it.
It's a heavy time. Now I have to talk about queering up education. Let's queer up education.
At least that's your line of work. You're good.
That's right. Student boycott in Florida as thousands walk out over Don't Say Gay.
We were just talking about protesting.
That's right. On Thursday, thousands of students across the state of Florida walked out of class as part of the hashtag DSG walkout to protest Florida's Don't Say Gay bill. Jack Patox from Flagler Palm Coast High School helped to organize the statewide event and was handing out rainbow flags to students who were participating in the walkout. He has since been suspended by his school. After the walkout, he was called to the principal's office and told he was being, quote, disrespectful and openly advocating against staff, end quote.
Wow.
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 Never stop being disrespectful. We
Yeah.
have so much to learn from these kids.
Yeah,
They really are the
We're
future.
queer
They're
news
our
tonight.
own.
We love disrespectful.
Yeah.
right?
I disrespect you all the time.
All the
Right
time.
back at you, dude.
First thing he does when he walks in. You know what I love about this is that if you notice by the video, everybody's represented. Did you notice that? Black, white, brown, Asian, everyone is there represented, and all the letters of our acronym are there too, fighting behind this Don't Say Gay. It's
I think if something is going to change, it has to be for the young people.
Right.
They have to come out and make their voice heard. So I'm glad this is happening.
Well, we've talked about Marjorie Stoneman Douglas too. I mean, that it was that's where it was. That we were seeing that.
Jack Patox, Flagler Palm Coast High School. Everyone here at the Happening Out Television Network and Hotspots Magazine down here in South Florida, we really admire you.
Thank
Good
you.
for you. Thank you. Our Gen Zers, you've got more support than you know. And I just have to say, because I'm in the same bucket as our governor, old white men are not going to make decisions forever. So you keep fighting. You just keep fighting.
Next, we report on our partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. We're broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine in supporting that partnership. Happening Out Television Network broadcasts the largest LGBTQ plus religious live broadcast in the world, as more than 30,000 watch every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Watch this.
This is Joe Saunders, former state representative and Equality Florida senior political director. And Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
Well, we're going to finish tonight's queer news headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ plus Flash News.
LGBTQ plus Flash News. Hotspots magazine, what's hot this week with the gay agenda. Every week, Hotspots magazine presents what's hot this week. Friday the 11th, we celebrate the 25th Annual Bank of America Wine, Spirit, and Culinary Celebration at the Museum of Discovery and Science in Fort Lauderdale. On Saturday the 12th, the 20th Annual Miami Beach Garden Tour starts at 10 a.m. starting at the Miami Beach Botanical Gardens. On Wednesday, the 16th, 321 Slammer presents their 15th anniversary celebration from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. with a member-sponsor open bar and refreshments. For more hot events in South Florida, pick up Hotspots magazine on stands now or online at hotspotmagazine.com. So I am interested in the 321 event.
Not the garden tour.
Not the garden tour, so I won't be gardening.
Hot, hot, hot. Good job, Hotspots.
I like all of those three. I would do all of those three.
Oh, Chad.
Yeah.
Really?
There's lots of layers. to
Yeah,
me.
Lots of
that's
layers.
right.
Lots of layers.
I'm glad.
Judgy Judge McJudgerson.
That's exactly right. You know, I love a week where we report there's a garden tour in Miami Beach and Slammers is, by the way, look it up. If you don't know, look it up. There's this thing called the Google machine, or Go, which is what I'll be doing. I love that we're reporting that in the same story.
Listen, just to keep everything balanced, I'm going to the 20th Annual Miami Beach Garden Tour, and then I'm going to Ramaron.
There you are.
That's what you should do.
That's
3,
how it
2,
is.
1,
3-2-1.
Slammers.
Right. It's
And then I'm going to Ramaron.
You could do both.
All right.
LGBTQ plus flash news. SunServe Shine Gala serves critical LGBTQ plus community needs. March 26th at the Manor. On Saturday, March 26th, SunServe will be celebrating Shine, a 20th anniversary gala celebration at the venue. Wilton Manor starting at 6:30 p.m. Step through the doors and find yourself transported back in time to the glitz and glamour of the American supper clubs of the 1920s. Tickets are $150 per person for the full gala experience, or $1,500 per table of 10. All ticket purchases are considered donations and are tax deductible. As you enter the Shine Club, your evening begins with free-flowing cocktails, photo and networking opportunities with community leaders and attendees. I can't wait to go. I'm super excited. It's going to be an awesome event.
I would love to go there and support Tony Lima too. So
Who?
You just want to see him in a suit.
Well, so it's the 20s, there'll probably be flappers, but will there be flapjacks?
That's not a word we care for. This is an organization near and dear to my heart. Check out SunServe, check them out online, check out their social media, support this great event, this gala. They're doing incredible work for the most vulnerable among us in the LGBTQ community. Check them out.
I love that you call it gala.
Gala.
Very gay.
Gays. Gays.
SunServe is super important. It's one of our LGBTQ not-for-profits that has been hit right on the chin by this pandemic. And this organization supports and provides needed service for the trans community, HIV, for young LGBT, for old LGBT of seniors, mental health, and more.
Women.
Women. So the value of this program is, the value of this program is incredible. And by the way, we're going to help support this with many, many voices in our community. We'll show you an example. You'll see a lot of this kind of thing. Watch this.
I'm Saborni Barnes, Director of Youth Services at SunServe. I am so excited to invite you to help support SunServe's 20th anniversary at the Shine Gala, Saturday, March 26th, starting at 6:30 p.m. at the venue in Wilton Manors. All proceeds are matched by AHF through the Florida AIDS Walk and Music Festival. After 2 years of pandemic, LGBTQ charity organizations like SunServe have been hit hard, and this is a very personal way to help SunServe to return to full strength in serving the most vulnerable members of the LGBTQ+ community. SunServe has programs for LGBTQ youth, mental health counseling, emergency housing, substance use recovery, senior services, transgender support, and women's healthy living. Simply put, SunServe helps LGBTQ+ people in need. If you can attend, make a donation that will be matched dollar for dollar by AHF. Even better, join us at the 20th Anniversary Gala. For more information, visit sunserve.org or your favorite social media.
Well, in LGBTQ plus flash news, gay Superman, Gay Superman comes out at the Sydney Mardi Gras. dozens of them. Queer News Tonight reported on the news that Superman's son came out in a special comic series last year. Last week at the Sydney Mardi Gras and Gay Pride, a group of revelers celebrated this news in a choreographed number while dressed as the Man of Steel and holding newspapers with the Superman Comes Out headline. Tom Taylor, who wrote Son of Kal-El, is from Australia himself. Well, we're showing you the video right now of dozens of Supermen, and they could be men or women or non-binary, parading in Australia. It makes me want to be Aussie. Makes me.
This is the plot twist of a gay porn musical I saw last night. Same thing. It was a bunch of Superman. No, you haven't seen it? You should watch it.
Men.com. Wait, I don't know what I'm talking about.
This is the best way to come back for Australians. They were really locked down during COVID.
Yeah.
So to come back to Mardi Gras in full force like this, awesome for them.
Yeah.
And you have to love a bent Clark Kent.
Always with the wit.
Something wrong with
There
it.
really is something wrong with
You're
it. For
twisted.
real, there really is.
You are twisted.
I
I
love
wonder
it.
why you keep him around.
I know. I like it. I dig it.
Like, he's gonna go senile one day and kill us all. You know that, right?
I know, right?
That's
I love you, Greg. I love all your books. I've read them at least 5 times.
At least.
He's going to snap and kill us all.
I'm afraid
Oh.
now.
Now I need to
possible.
befriend you to
Wow.
make sure I'm
Not
not
possible.
among your.
Not possible.
I forgot what I was going to say,
I just
but
move
now
on.
I'm scared for my life. But I'm ready to. You know, Sydney is so much fun. That's what else, and it's always creative and queer and you know. I'll stop with it. Yeah, now I'm scared I'm going to die.
No.
Oh my God.
Or I'll just sit over here.
Such a weird dark turn. All right, it's my turn.
Yes, it is, sir.
All right, LGBTQ plus flash news. Let's queer cartoon characters. They were out and proud, but they kept in the closet. Tony Lima isn't on the show tonight. Thank
Oh,
God.
we're mentioning him.
Oh,
Hey.
goodness, yeah. His ears ringing or something. But we pay tribute to Tony Lima's favorite line, representation matters. Tonight we explore some of the many LGBTQ plus characters that have appeared in cartoons in recent years. It's gonna be fun. A little education. Our first is one character who is actually 2 characters. The muscle of the crystal gems in Steven Universe is Garnet, who is actually a fusion between the characters Ruby and Sapphire. While a strong connection is needed to form a fusion, Garnet, who is voiced by Estelle, is unique in that the 2 gems who make her up are in love and they get married during the show. Aw.
Adventure Time's main characters, Jake the dog and Finn the human, may drive many of the plot lines, but Princess Bubblegum of the Candy Kingdom and musical vampire Marceline are both recurring characters. Many thought that Finn had romantic intentions on them, but it turns out that Bubblegum and Marceline used to date but had a terrible breakup long ago. In the series finale, the 2 reconcile with a kiss and end up back together and renting a U-Haul. No, I get it.
Who lives in a pineapple under the sea? Who's yellow and square and asexual as can be? Spongebob Squarepants. While many people thought SpongeBob and his best friend Patrick Starfish were a couple, the creators have confirmed that the character is asexual, just like the real sponges.
The next couple proved that bad girls do it better. In the animated series Harley Quinn, Harley and Poison Ivy are best friends and roommates. Poison Ivy gets engaged to Kite Man, but eventually begins to admit she has feelings for Harley. Duh. The 2 end up taking off all their clothes. The 2 end up taking off from the cops in a tribute to Thelma and Louise.
Avatar: The Last Airbender was an amazingly deep and well-developed cartoon on Nickelodeon that was turned into a box office flop movie by M. Night Shyamalan. Nickelodeon created a second series about the next Avatar in the line named The Legend of Korra. Both Korra and her best friend Asami have lots of relationship issues through the series, and in the finale, they step into a portal to the spirit realm holding hands. In the follow-up comic books, it is shown that they develop a full romantic relationship.
So
Why
that's
do
a
they look
lot.
so mad about it? Like,
They look-
look at their faces. They're like mad. They're like they're together, but we're mad. Like,
This is so much fun. Comic books have always been really queer and have always been, and I love. Also, nobody is ever going to tell me that the purple Teletubby wasn't a queer icon. I feel like-
Wait, hold on. Let's just bring in an end before we
You've
make
got
some.
more.
Yeah, well, and I'll
I
pick it
got
up.
more. I didn't
Yeah.
realize I had more. I'm
These are
embarrassed.
just some of the amazing LGBTQ plus characters.
Got excited.
I'm doing this in my best Latin voice, by the way.
Sounds great.
That have appeared in animated shows in recent years.
just say dale.
Now, dale. Now I'm moving to my professorial Florida International voice. Share your favorites with us in the chat on our YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, or Facebook. And you were saying?
I'm
Julio?
sorry, I got very excited. I was very. Now it's weird, but I want the purple Teletubby to come out as gay too. Did that ever happen?
Well, or the Power Ranger, right? Wasn't
the
there like
Power
a gay
Ranger,
Power Ranger
yeah.
too that they weren't telling us
Yeah.
about
There
just
was
because he wore
one?
purple or some crap,
I
or
don't
pink
know.
or something?
We're all LGBT. Do we care about comic characters?
Yeah.
There is
do we?
a big subculture within our culture that caters to this. I mean, that
Yeah.
loves this. I mean, I'm not a millennial, but you know, he is. So it's very.
I'm actually
it's very
older than I look.
It's very popular within
That
the.
Botox works for you.
It's very popular with millennials, believe it or not. It's just, and I am shocked because a lot of my friends that are in that group, they all talking about this thing. So it's surprising.
I
right?
remember watching porn anime
Yeah.
in the
Me
2000s,
too.
right? And just like, not being able to like get excited about it because it
Yeah.
was animated things, But like with these guys, I would probably go look it up now that I know that they were meant to be queer, I don't get the ruby and the sapphire and I don't know where's the diamond, I don't get it. And the fin and the Vaseline, I don't get it either.
The
But like,
Vaseline.
but I'd watch it
Crisco,
because
Crisco.
it's representing us. Crisco, lo que sea,
terrible.
Michelin, I don't care.
Michelin.
You're terrible, Muriel.
They can make these jokes about the characters and butcher their names. But we all know that she doesn't really feel that way because when we were talking about this story before the show went on, she was the most enthusiastic of all of us.
Because I thought Powerpuff Girls was in it, and they're obviously lesbians, so that's why I was excited about it.
Yeah, would
Definitely
it
lesbians.
shock y'all? I got asked to post something one time recently, within the last month, in an LGBTQ gamers Facebook group. And when I went, it was a very specific kind of thing that somebody asked me to do, which I did. And when I went in, I had to join the group to be able to post, because you can't post without it. And the number of people in this LGBTQ Facebook group, and it's national and international, I would assume, was something like 90,000 members in an LGBT gamers comic themed.
But look at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Comic-Con is huge.
And super queer.
And with super queer, exactly right. I go back, when I was growing up, there was this anime too, but it was, back then, I'm aging myself, but it was called Candy Candy. It's kind of like Sailor Moon. You know, you guys know Sailor Moon?
Yeah, Sailor Moon.
Sailor Moon, but in
was
a
hot.
very, she was a slut. But she was, I mean,
I'm sorry, could you say that
she
word
was a
again?
slut. She was.
Why do they say that like it's a bad thing?
Sex
You know what I mean?
positivity,
but-
slut pride.
Right, but she was, I mean, she was so active, and the guys were hot, the ones that she did. But there was no gay
Can you say
character.
hot one more time?
I mean,
There was no gay character.
See, all I
Stop
had,
it.
all I
There
had was Beanie and Cecil and Fred and Barney, and there was nothing
Right.
going on.
and look how you turned out.
no gay.
And look how you
And with what we've learned about Greg tonight, we're just going to say that's lovely. We love that.
We love you so much.
we see
Everything's
ourselves
fine.
in these things.
Would you like a
though.
cup of tea?
We definitely see ourselves in these things though. Like I read a lot of X-Men as a kid, and the whole kind of metaphor for mutants as being different, as
Yes.
being, that was powerful for me then. And I don't know if I had some kind of clear understanding of them as queer characters, but I certainly saw that the kind of idea of being different, as being understood as different, as people wanting to change who you
that's
are
very
fundamentally.
interesting.
And that's, so many of these comic books are telling these stories about different ways of being in this world, and that's,
we
it
have-
speaks to us.
We have,
The
we have to
gayest thing that I ever saw was Bert and Ernie.
Yeah.
It's Sesame Street, but that was, it wasn't, that was, big talk, but nobody knew. There was never this, this is really positive, this is really good.
Bert and Ernie.
Bert.
Verse. They were verse.
See, I was wondered about.
Oh, it was clear. It was clear. It was very
I always
clear.
wondered about Archie and Reggie and Betty and Veronica, but
Who?
Archie comics.
Archie
The Archie
comics.
You know
comics.
that I love you, and if your dentures fall out, I will help you.
You're terrible, Muriel.
There we are.
That is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show.
Whatever we see, we watch it, right? What is it? Whatever happens, you're gonna watch it.
No, you're going to ask people to help.
Help us. Help us.
Is our community important to you?
Then help us by liking and subscribing. Ring the bell for updates. Share this news with your friends and family.
So post this broadcast in the many groups that you're a member of.
Maybe not this one.
Maybe, yeah, keep us out of it. Tonight's stories about our community, they deserve the attention of your family and friends.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support.
Well, if our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world, clearly, that tells these type of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. And that is the passion of the Happening Out Television Network and Queer News Tonight. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including FayWhat and Dino Mosquera and Dr. Julio Capo Jr. and my absolute favorite, Gregg Shapiro. We love you.
We do.
We will see you daily at 8 p.m. I love him more than you, by the way.
That's fair.
Before we end our show, we have one final story.
We finished Queer News Tonight with one final story. Here's Queering Up Politics. What the hell is happening in Tallahassee? Well, recently, Queer News Tonight lead anchor Al Ferguson hosted a panel discussion at the Florida LGBTQ plus Democratic Caucus. This is Florida's largest gathering of LGBTQ plus political advocates. The panel explored the events going on in Tallahassee, including the Don't Say Gay bill, woke bill, and more in a panel called What in the Hell is Going On in Tallahassee? The panel included the first gay person of color in the Florida Senate, Senator Chevron Jones, and the first gay Latino state representative, Carlos Guillermo Smith. With Al Ferguson moderating the conversation, they both try to make sense of what is happening in Florida's capital. A particularly sobering moment is a question about if they are discouraged and how they continue this war going on in Tallahassee. Watch this.
Going on in Tallahassee. We're getting ready to find out. The fact that I can say hell in the Florida LGBT Equality Caucus proves that this cis white gay male is really woke. I'm just saying. All right. As we all know, Florida is ground zero for this new battleground of LGBTQ rights. We're under full assault. There are many issues. We're going to tick through some of them basically for understanding. We have two giants with us today that are right in ground zero of that fight, and the session is going on, and let me introduce both of them, as of course you know. First, Senator Chevron Jones. You might not know how appropriate at this time in our history. Chevron Jones was a teacher in Broward County. Some people don't know that. He was a teacher. He represents Miami-Dade County. He founded organizations like the Florida Youth Summit. And of course, for LGBT, representation always matters. And Chevron Jones is the first LGBTQ state senator in Florida history. His representation matters. Also with us is Representative Carlos Guillermo Smith, and he's from Palm Beach County, just north of our studio set in South Florida, and represents Orange County, specifically the inclusion of UCF Go Knights, which is where I went to school. He also is a reflection of representation matters because he becomes, in the House, the first Latino person ever elected to the Florida legislature. So we have two heavyweights sitting in front of us. Now, we are at Happening Out Television Network, have brought them both in. You'll be able to watch this entire program that's going to be broadcast on Roku and Apple Television. So, welcome, Senator and Representative, to What the Hell is Going On in Tallahassee? And you sit right in the heart of it. So, we're going to find this out. I want to ask first off to both of you. We keep talking that Florida is creating a fever around the country. Our beautiful state that you represent, how do you feel about that the rest of the country and internationally around the world is looking at Florida saying, what the hell is going on? How do you feel about that?
Well, first, Al, thank you so much for having both myself and Carlos on today. Yeah, well, when I look at what's taking place in Tallahassee, a lot of this is a continuation of what they have been trying to do over the last 2 years. It is Governor DeSantis and his continued approach to this national policy agenda that he's just trying to gain attention for his presidential run. But they're doing it on the backs of marginalized people. They're doing it on the backs of blacks. They're doing it on the backs of the LGBTQ community. And it all started with the transgender bill that they brought forth last year. And so this is what's happening. And how do we feel about it? Of course, there's no feeling nothing but any other but anger behind it, because you sit with these very colleagues every single day who we negotiate on certain bills, realizing that in the same breath, you're trying to take my rights away as a black man and as a gay man. And so it is infuriating. But I always like to end with what's the success behind the fact that you all and your voices that continuously come to Tallahassee to say, hell no, we're not going to stand for this. And so that's what gives me hope to continue to keep going.
And Representative Smith, how do you feel about how Florida is represented to the nation and the world now? You might be, Representative Smith, you might be muted, so we're going to double check that. Can you double check your sound?
Sorry, my bad. It's like I've never ever done a virtual interview before. I think you can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you.
So I will echo the words of my friend, Senator Shevrin Jones, and so many of his sentiments that right now what's happening really, I think, is not a reflection of the diversity of Florida. It's not a reflection of who we are. And right now, what we're seeing in the state of Florida is a retrogression of the progress that we have made in our march towards equality right here in the state of Florida. There are so many achievements that have been made in this state. You know, the fact that right now, according to the Florida Civil Rights Act and the work of the Florida Commission on Human Relations, you cannot be discriminated against in housing, in employment, in public accommodations based on your sexual orientation and your gender identity. You know, this is something that was achieved through so many hard-fought wins, in addition to a number of protections for the LGBTQ community that have been enacted at the local level in Florida through cities and counties, through the work of activists and people who are on the ground, people who are here in this room. So when we see these national headlines that we're seeing coming out of Florida, like headlines around the Stop Woke Act, headlines around the Don't Say Gay bill that has gotten a tremendous amount of attention, and we're seeing it not just in our newspapers, in the Miami Herald and the Orlando Sentinel and the Tampa Times, but we're seeing it splashed across the pages of CNN and the Washington Post and the Hill. It's important that people see what's happening here, because unfortunately, I think that it is a warning of what may be to come, because let's just understand these attacks on the LGBTQ community in Florida are orchestrated as part of a national effort. They come from right-wing think tanks And we are going to continue seeing these types of attacks like the Don't Say Gay bill in other states as well. So what we do here in Florida is actually very important.
If you don't mind me interrupting, before we get into the individual components that we're watching in the heart of Tallahassee right now, help the LGBTQ community, the people that are going to read this, watch this, understand what you're talking about right now. Help them understand why this is happening. Donald Trump is no longer president of the United States, and it's actually getting worse in Florida post-Trump. Why is this happening? Help us understand that.
I mean, although Donald Trump is not the president anymore, Donald Trump has left an aura within this country that we are still dealing with. He has built a Frankenstein of a party that I've told you, and I will continue to say it, that it's going to blow up in their face later. This social experiment that the Republicans are on currently right now is what they believe works. Let's look at Virginia. Let's look at Alabama. Let's look at Mississippi. Let's look at these areas. And so Donald Trump and what he has done still works. And look at this. Look what Governor DeSantis is doing. He's doubling down on a lot of this stuff. Why? Because people are responding to it in that manner. And so I don't think we need to be naive of the fact that we should not and we cannot allow them to think what they're doing is right at all whatsoever. But we also should be very vigilant of the fact that what they're building is something that we need to continue to push back on.
And Representative Smith, why is this happening? Why are we watching this?
Well, we're seeing it, unfortunately, because of politics. You just heard it from Senator Jones. The reality is that right now, Governor DeSantis, everything that he does, every bill that he pushes, every decision that he makes is driven by his own political ambitions. And what's the dynamic now post-Trump? Just look at the obvious. There is a rivalry that is brewing on the far right between former President Trump and Governor DeSantis himself. And in order to ensure the securing of the Republican nomination, Governor DeSantis is trying to do everything that he can to appear to be to the right of Trump. So he's pushing the envelope further and further right. The attacks against LGBTQ people, against immigrants, against Black and African American residents of the state of Florida are becoming even more overt than we had become used to during the Trump presidency. Look at what's happening right now, even with congressional redistricting. You have the governor is openly promising to veto congressional redistricting maps that include Black representation in North Florida. He's drawing a line in the sand, openly saying that he won't sign maps that basically guarantee minority representation in the state of Florida. We never would have seen that before Governor DeSantis, the overt racism and hostility that we're seeing right now.
Do you think with that call to action, do you think as we approach the November elections, that Floridians will see through what Governor DeSantis is trying to do? Are we going to figure it out?
Chef.
Oh, sure. I thought it was a continuation from Representative
I'm scared now, by the way.
Be either one.
But listen, I think the state of Florida, I think the people are seeing it now. I think many people are already they see where we are as a state. Here's where I believe that we have to begin to activate people. And I've been saying this for about the past 3 weeks. We are speaking at such high levels that we need to bring everything back to kitchen table issues, the things that people understand. I mean, like the Don't Say Gay bill, Equality Florida, congratulations. Finally, we're bringing something to say when it comes to the common person, that when they see it, they're like, damn, that's Tallahassee. This is actually what y'all doing up there. Yeah, we have to bring it down to where people can actually understand the politics and the policies that's at play right now within the state of Florida. Do people understand? I think we can get them to understand, but we have to bring it down to their level, move away from the politics, but really begin to hone in on what is the right thing that people need to hear. How can it hit their household so they know you're talking about my child, you're talking about my grandchild, you're talking about my cousin, you're talking about my daughter.
Well, and Al, I want to add to that real quick because I think it's really, really important, especially for folks here to understand. We know that a majority of Floridians oppose these radical extreme policies. We know that, which is why it's so important that people turn out in the next election. Right on the headline, right underneath us, right there on the screen, it says, had LGBTQ voters stayed home in 2020, Trump might have won the White House a second time. It is our participation and our continued engagement that is actually so critical and important, especially in the upcoming midterm.
I don't want to get into the action step for the LGBTQ community, but we'll talk about that. But I do want to ask about where you think we are at this moment. Are you satisfied over the course of the last 3 or 4 weeks of how LGBT Floridians have responded to the news coming out of Tallahassee?
How the LGBTQ community has responded is exactly the way that we have to continue to show up. And let me tell you something. I shared this with one of my Republican colleagues who asked me, how do I feel? And I gave them my true assessment of what they are doing right now. And I'm going to continue to call this a social experiment because that's exactly what this is. But the LGBTQ community, I said, the one thing I want you to be clear on, we will continue to show up. We've been here before. We've seen this before. But the one thing that we are clear on, that we won't stop showing up. And although you don't want to get into action steps, for everyone who's sitting in that room right now, I want to thank you for your bravery, and I want to thank you for constantly showing up, because the days that when I'm sitting in my office, when I walk out of committee, and I got tears coming out of my eyes because I can't believe I got to show up to this BS every single day, but there's a message that comes through, or there's a tweet that I see that the LGBTQ community is constantly saying that we will not stop this fight, is the encouragement that we need to continue moving on what the Republicans are doing in Tallahassee and across the nation.
I want to ask both of you, in terms of helping LGBTQ Floridians understand what's going on in Tallahassee from your seat. You are literally on the front line of attacks almost unparalleled in this state. How has it been for you personally as an African-American LGBT in the history of the first in the Senate, and for you as Latino, as the first Latino elected to the state legislature in the House? How has it been for you personally in terms of what you represent and how you represent to watch what you're watching in the front lines? How are you reacting personally to it?
Well, listen, I want to say one thing first to your previous question. The engagement from the LGBTQ community in Florida and allied communities has been very strong. I heard from Equality Florida that in the last 3 days, 600 people signed up for volunteerships for phone banking to speak out to their state senators and state reps to engage on this issue, which is unlike any activity we had seen in the past, even when we were facing a lot of anti-LGBT legislation. But how I feel on a personal level, I think it's just very jarring to be in the Florida legislature where you serve alongside colleagues from both sides of the aisle who are overtly attacking your existence, your lived experience, your community. And I think that's why it's so important when we say representation matters. The reality is that people like myself, Representative Michelle Rayner, Senator Chevron Jones, we walk the hallways in Tallahassee, and when we find these lawmakers who are pushing these bills, I know that I pull them aside and I say, what are you doing? What is this bill supposed to mean? Why are you advocating for this? And it's not just them. but it's the members of the Republican Party who we see are torn, who need courage, who need backbone, who need to have a spine to stand up against these bills, because they have to look us, some of their LGBTQ colleagues, and the public in the eye while they're doing it. And it's been quite an emotional experience, if I'm being honest.
I want to ask about a term that we're using a lot at Queer News Tonight, and that is gaslighting. These bills are coming out in terms of banning books and banning conversation and speech and preventing healthcare rights and all kinds of other that are coming out of the playbook. But I hear y'all challenging over and over about give us examples where this is happening. We don't hear any examples. Where does it come from in terms of why they think this is a problem in Florida?
On the answer, I would like to know also, because I've asked the question, where has the issue been? I haven't even put it on my Twitter, asking for any parent that a child has been taught CRT, please email me. I haven't received one email. I even asked the bill sponsor, what parent has come to you to talk about their child reading an inappropriate book that they have to bring into your house that you approve? Please let me know. They can't give me an answer. Listen, gaslighting is the right word, and it's also, again, it's red meat for a base. But very quickly, to piggyback on your question, last question, when it comes to how does it make you feel? It's crazy that you have to sit on a committee, being Black, being gay, and then you constantly have to find yourself defending and fighting for that, and then having to go back in your office and deal with that emotion, right? And thinking that you just have to just take the hit, and literally sometimes you'll beat up within that moment. But Al, here's where I would like to make sure that those of you who are in that room right now understand that it is so important that you equip Carlos and I with the necessary information, with the necessary things that we need. So when we do sit in those committees, that when we're fighting for these things, your stories actually matter, because that is the things that we can use to combat and debate, to let them know that we are human beings. We're not no punching bag that you can continue to push your legislation on.
Well, we thank you for joining the Florida LGBTQ Democratic Caucus today. Last related question. What do you want the LGBTQ community to do next week before the primary and before the midterm election? What is it you're asking us to do to help you?
Well, listen, I think that we always hear the same message. What can we do to help? We want you to call your state rep. We want you to call your state senator. We still want you to do those things. But right now, I think storytelling, personal experiences, how these bills will detrimentally impact your life, your family's lives. People need to hear these stories. How do they need to hear these stories? Draft a letter to the editor, an LTE. Send an op-ed to your local paper and ask them to publish it so that you can have the opportunity to tell your story in your voice. Stats, statistics, data, they can help persuade perhaps, or for the folks that we're preaching to the choir, they're going to nod their heads, they're going to understand, they're going to know we're right and agree with us when we're talking about stats and statistics. But when it has to do with stories, personal experiences of discrimination, how these bills will impact you and your family, you need to tell those stories in a way that is going to have a broader audience. And I would encourage you to engage in letter writing and op-ed writing in our local papers.
Anything, Senator, you'd like to add?
That Representative Carlos Dino Smith said, we need to make sure we are lifting up other LGBT candidates who are running for office. That's UNIC, that's Todd, and anybody else who's running. We need to make sure we're consistently lifting them up and putting the resources back to make sure that we can continue to build our caucus. everyone deserves to have a seat at the table.
Absolutely true. Heard that loud and clear. Well, before we say goodbye, Senator Jones, Representative Smith, we thank you very much for doing this call-in. We know it's an incredibly busy time. And before we leave, we want to turn back over to our president of the caucus, Stephen Gaskell.
Thank you so much. And I know, Senator Jones, I know you need to go, so I just wanted to jump in real fast and say thank you for being here. And I want everyone to know that both Senator Jones and Representative Smith are recipients of our Legislative Leadership Award in the past 2 years. So thank you for your tenacity, your ferocity, for fighting for us, and for representing the community, not only the LGBTQ community, but also the overall democratic with a small d, the democratic community that we're still fighting for here in Florida. I just wanted to say thank you, and I think Chev needs to go, but I think we may have Representative Smith for another minute or so if we can. So thank you guys, and Al, back to you.
All right, thank you, Senator Jones. Representative Smith, we listened to you yesterday on National Public Radio, and it was a fascinating interview. And you did as clear.
Yes, it was.
It was as clear a dissection.
Randy, fine.
It was as clear a dissection of who's leading this in Tallahassee as I've heard anyone do. Congratulations to you for that, making it so clear. One of the things that I want to zero in on with you, help us understand the personal of this fight, of how you've made this so personal. And I want to ask the broadest question that I'm asked about you and Senator Jones and our other representatives at all levels, in school boards, in city commissions and county commissions, and of course the State House. Are you discouraged? Do you get to the point where you feel like, this fight, I just can't win it? Does it discourage you?
It can be, as I mentioned before, Al, very jarring to wake up every morning to read a new news article about the type of hate that's being peddled by the Republican Party of Florida, by Governor DeSantis. But I think what kind of gives me energy and motivation is, first of all, seeing how engaged the activist community is, seeing how engaged our community is in the fight against this. And also, you know, as a Democrat in the minority party, we are often told, well, your voice doesn't matter. You're so in the minority up in Tallahassee that it doesn't make a difference. And my lived experience as a lawmaker tells me exactly the opposite. If folks like Senator Jones, Representative Griner, myself, were not here in Tallahassee to speak out against this legislation, to slow it down, to point out how negative the consequences are of bills that are being proposed, you know, I think that we would be a lot worse off. We need people who are committed, who are personally invested in being the opposition.
My last question, and thank you for a little bit of extra time. Representative Smith, to the tens of thousands that are going to listen to your voice right now, in this time that we are in Florida, we need advocacy more than ever. Very difficult for you, very difficult for Senator Jones and our other representatives. But speak to the LGBTQ community here in Florida, why they should still get involved, why they should run for school board or dog catcher or the House or become a senator in Florida. Why should LGBT think about how they get involved, even in the most difficult time we've ever watched?
Well, it's like I just mentioned, it's because representation matters. It's because we have to have our community represented in all levels of government. So when the book banners show up and they want to ban books about us in our school boards, that we have LGBTQ school board members that are going to be there to tell their stories, to speak out and to fight back. The same in the state legislature. You know, you have seen folks like myself and Senator Jones and Representative Griner really pour our hearts out and be able to share our personal experiences. Without having representation for our community, it's going to make it so much harder to beat back against these bills. And we have killed these bills before, and it is not a guarantee that the Don't Say Gay bill is going to pass this year. It is not ever a guarantee that these things are going to pass into law. We have people power. We have the majority of Floridians on our side, and I think it's important that people continue to do what they're doing and continue their engagement, because really the health and safety of our kids, of LGBTQ youth, are at stake, and I can't imagine higher stakes than that.
Well, Representative Carlos Guillermo Smith, thank you very much. All of LGBT Florida and really all over the nation will be watching your next steps. And we're really glad that you and people like Senator Shevrin Jones are in the fight on behalf of the LGBTQ community. We thank you very much for all of your
Thank you, Al. And thank you all. Thank you to the LGBTQ plus Democratic Caucus of Florida.
You were getting so much applause in the room, we didn't hear what you just said, so I'll give you another chance.
Well, yeah, right. I can't see you all, but I can hear you all. I just wanted to say thank you, Al, and thank you to the LGBTQ plus Democratic Caucus of Florida for including us in this important conversation. And I know I'm going to see a lot of you in Tallahassee. So keep up the great work and follow me on Twitter at Carlos G. Smith.
There's the marketing. There's the marketing. All right. Thank you very much. And we're going to turn the program back over to Stephen Gaskell. Thank you.
Thank you, Al, and thanks again, always to Carlos Guillermo Smith and to Shevrin Jones. We are coming together, back on track. I'm excited to introduce our next speaker.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Lara are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.